The country are digesting what they just heard in the explosive debate between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. And joining us via Zoom, a political analyst for his perspective analysis of tonight's debate, John Barrett, assistant professor of political science at LeTourneau University. Good to have you with us. John, tell us, what did you see tonight?
Well, it was a lively exchange. I think in general, Harris did fairly well. Um, I think she was able to get under Trump's skin early on with some comments she said about his political rallies. And I think that kind of threw off his game a little bit. And he was struggling to bring home some of the points that he was trying to get across about Harris's policy and some of these other issues.
And John, what was your biggest takeaway from this debate?
Well, one of the exchanges that was very interesting to me was the one over abortion, where Trump came out and said he wouldn't sign a nationwide abortion ban. And so obviously that's going to be something that is, controversial to some of his pro-life supporters. And so that was a very interesting exchange. Um, there was also this moment when they were talking about healthcare where Trump said, I have concepts of a plan. And I think this is, one of his goals was to try to paint this picture that, Harris didn't have a plan, didn't have a lot of policy details. And then here he was kind of making a comment like that, that I think that's going to get a lot of attention. So I think that was another place where he didn't do a great job of really going after her like he wanted to.
And a critical showdown tonight in the birthplace of our independence. What were some of the strongest points each candidate made?
Well, I think Harris did a good job of, she talked about the people that had worked for Trump in his administration that were now supporting her. And so I think that was a good point that she got across. I think Trump kept coming back to things like the economy and immigration. And, obviously those are some of his kind of core issues. And so I think he was trying to push those. I think that the challenge he had is that when he would speak, he would sometimes kind of quickly jump, and change topics and wouldn't always explain the context. And so I think that kind of probably undermined some of the power of his attacks on her. Those, but there was a lot of very colorful language on either side. Uh, so it certainly made for a lively exchange.
And John, there were millions of people watching all across the networks tonight. There were a lot of policies discussed, as you know. And what kind of impact do you think this debate will have come the November election?
Well, I think we're in an unusual situation where there's not a lot of voters that are up for grabs. I think Trump and Harris both have their base of supporters, and I don't think either are going to be particularly swayed by what happened tonight. The question is, what about the relatively small number of voters that are up for grabs? And the poll show it's a very tight race. Again, you saw Harris trying to make a play, kind of for moderate voters. Uh, Trump, I think, was a little more playing to his base than for the swing voters. So I don't know. We'll see how the polls look over the next couple of days.
All righty, John Barrett, thank you for your insight.